Hello, I'm Mr. Bismarck, and this is Gravity Tactics US Front. Maybe, I don't know how to pronounce that. This is a operational level sim, World War II, Eastern Front, from a Ukrainian developer. I believe they make military simulations for their day jobs, and then their super secret nighttime identity is making video games as a hobby. It's got something of a baffling UI which can get between prospective players and what really is a fantastic gem of a game. So let's do something about that. The place where we're going to start is with Graviteam's quick battle option. If you click in here, this is actually where the tutorials live. They're not bad. They can feel a bit like work at times, or like an MMO quest, because you're told go here, click this, go here, click that. But they're useful. They're probably a bit more accurate than mine will be. This one, for example, will give you 2 infantry companies, or squads, sorry, and 2 KV-1s, Russian tanks, and make you attack a really very open German position. It's not really any trench systems or any sort of defined defensive systems. It's usually just an infantry company out in the open and an anti-tank gun off somewhere, which can give you a bit of a surprise if it sees your KV-1s before you see it, which will often happen if you're driving along buttoned up. But yeah, these are useful. I would definitely say give them a try. They can be quite fun to play as well. They're not just kind of boring step-by-step stuff. There are some stages where it goes, okay, now enjoy the rest of the mission. But what we're going to do today is use Surprise Me. This isn't a completely random button. When you first see it, it can sound like it's going to put you into a completely random encounter. You will get one of a set of encounters. You can end up playing either side. You can end up playing attack or defense on either side, maybe even a meeting engagement. So it's not completely random, but there is some element of surprise, and also with the way that the AI works in this game, even if you got the same mission twice in a row from Surprise Me and you ended up on the same side, the mission would play differently, just because that's the way this works. Let's click it and see where we end up. Okay, so this is what the deployment screen looks like. You can tell that because it has deployment written in red in the top corner here. Can look a little perplexing at first, but we can get through this. First thing I would suggest you do is to find out what the point of the mission is, and we can do that a couple of ways. If you press F10, you're going to get the tactical map, which is up here. It says Display Tactical Map, so you can click on this button, or the shortcut is F10. Right. So we are the blue. You can see this giant red arrow suggests that the other team are going to be attacking, and this here means that this is the objective. The way that the map works is scroll up and down with the mouse wheel, clicking with the left button drags so you can select all your units, clicking with the right mouse button centers on the point where you click. If you want to drag the map around and have a look, just hold the middle mouse button down and off you go. Okay, so press F10 to get back to this view. Now I'm going to press escape, and it's going to give me the initial conditions of the battle. So weather's clear, the forecast is clear, mission is set for a maximum of 1 hour. There is some wind, and it is hot today, 95 degrees Fahrenheit. It's hot in Russia, who knew? Error from wind, 0.3%. It's not big, but it's possible to get a nicely lined up shot, miss the target simply because the wind pushes it out of the way. The temperature affects velocity, so rounds are going slightly faster than their default, which gives them better penetration. And the victory conditions are losses and territory, so you win by having a few losses and by holding the territory at the end of the battle. The end of the battle could be a ceasefire, it could be annihilation of one side or the other, or it could be capture of the territory by the enemy forces. So the good news is we get 100. That's how many points our forces are worth, and they get 66. Press escape again to go back to this map. This view is kind of unusual when you start. The area in which you can deploy is covered in squares and chevrons and dash lines, and sometimes orange squares around the outside as well. Okay, but once you've seen this a few times, it makes immediate sense. So let's explain what's up. Zoom in a little bit. Okay, so these central squares here, this is grey, this is orange, this is yellow, this is red. That's the amount of concealment in this square. Grey is none, red is bad, orange is slightly better, yellow is better still, and then I think I saw some green. It's pretty hard to find a green one. There we go. So there's your concealment. So this is fantastic concealment here. This green, slightly worse here is yellow. This is terrible concealment because you're out in the open. These blue lines around the outside, you can make these change. They are giving you information, and it's based on this at the top here, the visibility map, which is F2, or you can click on it. Right now it's set to tanks. Now it's set to standing infantry, and you can see all of the blue lines changed. And now it's set to crouching infantry, essentially infantry that's hiding. More blue lines changed, and we can go back to tanks. And what this tells you about is the visibility out of the square. You can change it up here. This is currently set to the view from someone riding in the coupler of a tank. You see, so these squares have grey concealment, but visibility out is different. And similarly, all yellow squares are not created equal either. These ones here, yellow for concealment, that's good, but the visibility is different out of the square, thanks to the bushes, maybe depressions, the elevation of the surrounding areas. So you can see there's different visibility in different directions from these 4 yellow squares. Let's see if we can find some good ones. Yep, here we go. So this one here, good concealment, yellow, not perfect but good, but it's practically zero visibility even if you're riding on top of a tank. Currently have the visibility map set to tank. This one alongside, you can see out the diagonal in the front and back essentially, but not off to the side. And again over here you see different visibility, nothing on the side, nothing behind, but 1 pip on the left there and 2 chevrons compared to nothing in this square. A little bit of visibility over here. If we zoom in using the mouse wheel to zoom in and then holding down the middle mouse button, you can zoom around. You can see why there's no visibility here. There's good covers with the trees there, front and back, even if we look back towards where our troops are, because there's a rise off in the distance and there's trees and bushes in the way. Even if you're sitting on top of a tank, you're not going to be seeing very much. If we scroll over to the square next door, okay, again behind, no visibility, lots of cover, rise off in the distance. Let me spin around, have a little zoom in. You can see there's chevrons off to the top left, there's nothing behind, nothing to the side, and 1 little pip to the left here. We'll zoom down and have a look at why that's happening. You can see there's a natural break in the foliage here, which means that someone sitting in the coupler of a tank is going to be able to see off some distance in that direction. Okay. Now if we change it to an infantryman on foot, you'll see the chevrons in the corner disappear. The visibility is still available out the side, but these bushes are obstructing your view. If you're on foot, you can suddenly not see anything in that direction. If we go to crouching infantry, or in placed infantry in a trench, nothing changes, you still see off to the side, but go back to a tank, there's your chevrons back, and the reason being is a very nice little natural cut in the foliage here, which is naturally occurring. It gives you some visibility off into the distance there. Someone on the ridge there, you'll probably be able to see them if you're in a tank, not on foot. So there's perhaps a habit of looking at these squares. Yeah, they're all the same. Not really. Okay, you can't just slap your units down in a yellow square because concealment's good, visibility not so much. Here we have like 1 pip out the side of this one. I don't think that correlates exactly to 1 square. I don't think that means you can only see as far as this. I think it's just some distance. That one can see some distance out. This one can see a little further because there's just stuff in the way for this square, that isn't in the way for this square. Okay, now this orange box here, around the outside there were a few squares with it, down here. That orange box means you cannot dig a trench on this square. So if you're in defensive mode and you put infantry there, or some kind of fixed weapon, there's a good chance they will put some kind of fortification like a ditch or a trench, something they will dig in. But orange square, that means they can't do it. Okay. Now, as a Dwarf Fortress player looking at this, the reason you don't want to dig a trench here is because of the aquifer, obviously. But you will see it elsewhere at times on other maps. Nothing over here. Okay, so that's that. Now the objective for the mission, bearing in mind if we click on F10, see the giant arrow coming out of our enemy, which means we're on the defensive. This is what we're going to be defending. Now, our deployment area ends short of it. We cannot deploy on the objective, so we're going to have to deploy short of the objective and move up. Okay, so what are we going to be moving? Let's have a look. This is our complete force at the bottom here. It looks like we really only have one company, which is then made up of these recon detachments. Yep, it's... oh great, everything is recon, that's going to go well. Okay, so there's the commander. So, let's see what this is. Normally, when it starts, when you click on a unit, you would see something that looks like this on the left. You can pop it out by hitting this arrow, and it's going to, give you some text so that you know what you're seeing. Right now, because I left-clicked under starter here, it's selected everything. So all of my units are selected. You can see everything is pink. There's the commander, and there's Kogel, which is this thing right here. Right. So now, if you left-click on any individual unit, you will just highlight that unit. Okay. Someone here called Kogel. His name is Bucket. If you right-click on an individual unit, basically if you right-click on the command unit, nothing happens. You select an individual unit and right-click on them, the camera's going to zoom to where they are. So now we can zoom in and see what we've got. Okay, the WASD keys will move the camera. Okay, so this looks like this is probably going to be my only anti-tank weapon on the field today. Now, with it highlighted, I can see over here information about it. It has limited radio, morale is eager, that's always good. If I move over the ammo and highlight it, it will tell me. Okay, so it's 37mm pack. I hope I'm not facing anything with too tough of a skin. Like that is probably not going to do anything to a KV-1. It's got 22 armoured piercing rounds in green just below that, 15 APC rounds, 85 high explosive rounds, and 3 APCRs. The APCR, I guess, I could get that through a KV if I hit a view slot, or certainly if I hit the track. So this is going to be something of a precious resource for me. Let's see what else we've got. Okay, so this is my commander. Important to keep him alive. Now, one of the things you'll notice is that this is a really nice tactical view. You're going to have a lovely tactical battle, but this is not a micromanagement game. You don't want to over-click on your units. You don't want to give them 15 instructions a minute, because here's our commander. This is the guy that has to stay in touch with everyone for them to do what you want, and he has limited radio. That's bad. It's probably better than the Russians. I would imagine the Russians in this scenario, if I've got limited radio as a German, I imagine they're using voice commands and smoke. Okay, so it looks like we have a collection of machine gun armed half-tracks. So it's a half-track, or does it say, yep, APC, armoured personnel carrier. With, what's that, MG34s. Okay, so my squad is loaded, you can see that. Okay, the mount key is greyed out. Make them unmount, and they will form around the unit. You can actually say how you want them to line up. That's moving the whole team there. So you can see there's an MG34 on the vehicle and an MG42 in the team. And if you highlight over the ammo, it's going to tell you what we've got here. So the 34, that's on the vehicle, with how many rounds it has. 2 MP38s, another 34, so that guy actually has a 34, not a 42, and then 2 of the Mauser rifles, grenades and mines. It has high explosive M24, so that, this has got some pretty limited anti-tank capabilities. It's not great. Let's see where we are. So, if you click on this will tell you what this particular unit is capable of. So you can see it's green in anti-personnel, but there's nothing in anti-tank. There's some like tiny grey bars here, which means that it could probably do, if the tank is completely distracted or has a jammed turret or something, they could probably sneak up behind it and do something. Maybe they can set fire to the engine deck. Most often, if you see something like this and you are super lucky, you may actually detrack an opponent tank, and that might be the best you can achieve, and then you run away. And some very minor anti-aircraft, which probably comes from the machine guns. Alright. So, the good news is I have quite a lot of speed here, because I think I'm going to have to rush to get to radio. Everyone has limited radio and signal flares. I think I'm going to have to rush to get to the objective. The Russians are a fair distance away. I suspect they're probably going to have like half tracks of some description, maybe Lend-Lease half tracks. So they're not going to move too fast, and I think if they do have half tracks, they'll probably try and come around the sides rather than right down the middle, which means I should be able to deploy here and move right up this tree line. Looking at the point right now, I'm not exactly a master tactician, but the obvious thing to me would be to obviously get some people. I don't want them on the point, because then the Russians could be practically on us before we could see them. Probably want to put people out here. Question is, can I get them into this position without being seen? If the Russians are moving fast in half tracks, can I get them here without being spotted when they come into position? Because I don't want to take long range fire from machine guns. Now, what do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 machine gun armed half tracks, APCs, and then the guy with the anti-tank gun. See, the anti-tank gun I think would be best over here. It would have a field of fire over here, and then it would also be able to hit over here, even though there's trees in the way, simply because of the height. When you go down here, this is a pretty high hill. If the Russians come through here, then it doesn't matter where I put the anti-tank gun, because the trees are going to protect them. But if they try and circle around and they end up here on the hill, then if I can find suitable concealment for the APs, for the anti-tank gun, like this is okay, because when you think about the directions the Russians are going to come, if they come straight up the middle, there's a lot of trees going to get in the way. If they come around the side here, you can see this square doesn't have any chevrons pointing this way. The tank-sized vehicle is not going to be seen from over here until it fires, and also it doesn't have any chevrons off in this direction either, off this diagonal, which means they're not going to see it from here. If they get around the sides, they can spot it, and directly on the front there's some visibility. But if they come around the edges, we should be fine. So I think I'm going to go ahead and put this guy right here. Now when you put them in the square, you right click, they'll go into the square. If you hold the right button and drag, you get a green arrow, so you can actually control their facing. zoom in, we can see it's pointed off at the angle there. If I do this, see, make him even point backwards. So I think I want him at the angle. I don't know what the traverse is like on one of these. It does look like he has a limited traverse. Ideally I'd like him to be able to engage targets over here and over here without rotating the chassis. That makes dust, which tends to give away your position. Okay, and then the good news is that everyone else is in APCs, which means they will be quite fast. So I'm wondering if I want to push one of the APCs out. Well, I don't even need to push it out to the trees because I can deploy in the trees. I have an orange square right here with no visibility to the front. Now, okay, let's do this. So the thing is, obviously, that you also need to consider command and control. They have limited radio. I don't know what that means about ranges and so on. Obviously, if you're using voice commands and you put your commander here, and then you put one of your other forces over here, they're not going to be able to talk to each other. Commander can fire smoke as a signal, but really you can only convey messages of, launch the attack that we had planned, or come over here. That's pretty much all you can say with smoke. Now the good news is you can pass orders on. I'll show you that when we get going. So it's possible, like if you had your commander in here, and then you had a force here that was within limited radio range, and another one here, this one would pass messages on. So it's more noticeable when you're using the Russian forces with their voice commands. If you turn on the command arrows, you can see that the commander will be shouting instructions to one of the subordinate units, and that unit will frequently then be passing on those messages to the other subordinate units rather than the commander speaking to all of them. Certainly if you're in a column moving along the road, he can only talk to the person behind him, so you actually see the command arrow come out of the second unit after it's arrived from the commander, and of course there will be a delay. That's the other thing, and that's why we talk about this not being micro. If you give, several confusing and conflicting orders one after another, your units will end up doing nothing, because they will start moving off some time after the first order arrives, and then the second order comes in, and they have to read that and think about what that means. You really have to be careful and sort of plan ahead, and sometimes it's best to go ahead with a less optimal plan rather than try and change instructions, certainly if you're trying to change instructions to several units that are spread out. Anyway, enough waffle, let's line up some units. I'm going to keep my anti-tank unit over there. I'm going to put the commander in, say, right in here. It's not going to be visible to anyone. He's done that. That's Kubel. This is Bucket. I'm going to put him here. The concealment isn't great, but I don't care because it's immediately going to move off towards the objective. So I will probably try and push him into here. Get the armoured personnel carrier set up here, see if I can get some lines of fire through, and then spread the infantry around. The infantry, there's not much there really. I think it had 2 rifles, so it's going to be close quarters before it can engage anything. The MG34s have got some range to them, which is nice, but it's depending on what I'm coming up against. If the opposition have got a tank hiding away, I'm going to need to sort of pull them back into the tree line and make him come to us. So it looks like the fastest route to the objective would be along this road. Anyone going to this gully is going to be going slowly, and there's no road along the edge of the gully on this side. So I think kind of the force that I'm going to put on the objective or push through on this side is going to have to start over here, and you will see you can give them orders to follow the road, and their average speed will be much higher than someone that you give an order to over here to go into the same location, because they're going to be bumping rough ground the whole way. So, Kubel, let's put you next to him. See, this is concealment is bad, but spotting is in our favour here. Again, doesn't matter that much because they're going to be moving off straight away. Okay, I'm going to keep the units that are side by side, just so that in the heat of the battle I have an idea about where I might find someone without scrolling out a mile. Bookfelder. The question is, do I want to put them out here? I guess if I have the anti-tank team back here. See, I'm worried about maybe the Russians come around the side here. I have a unit here with an exposed flank. I mean, I guess I can put a secondary unit in here and put them on ambush, so that hopefully if the Russians do come from over here they can't see down. Okay. Let's just crack on so that we can get to the actual fighting. Okay, so Buchfelder Schlitz. Enjoy a Schlitz. I'm going to put him right there. Okay, and then Kluger and Kupfer in the middle. I may even dismount their men straight away and have them walk in here. Now I think I want to keep one unit on the objective and maybe keep Kupfer. No, let's push Kupfer on the unit because he's on a red square, bad concealment. Push Kupfer here, so send his half track in here, and then dismount the men and put them on the objective. Have these two guys push up here and dismount, get into the trees here and here, and then have Buchfelder and Schlitz. Schlitz will go into here and Buchfelder into here, so that the Russians can't hook around unopposed. And then behind it all, probably out of radio range, but hopefully with the objective of just sitting there and shooting at targets of opportunity, we have our tank killer. I have no idea if the Russians are going to have tanks, but there's only one way to find out, and we will get to that in a minute. Now, on the placement, certainly when you get to campaign mode and things are a little more serious, you're going to want to know about line of sight and stuff like that. To get that, let's have a look at Bittel. Now if you press the tilde key, top left of the keyboard if you're using a QWERTY keyboard, you get this thing. So this shows you the line of sight for his main gun, which in this case would be the MG34 on the half track. So you can see he can shoot up here, up to 1 kilometre. Down here his line of sight has been broken by the trees, and if you try and shoot in here he can't do it because it's downhill on this side of the depression, and behind him it's red because the gun doesn't traverse there, so it's a pretty wide traverse. The other thing you can do is to do Control and tilde, which gives you this map of what you can see, so that this is a little more useful for a quick overview than the line. The line is good for setting up precise shots. Can I see between these two trees, that kind of stuff. But this tells me here, his visibility is good out here. There's nothing here because this is a depression, and obviously you can't see here because of the thickness of the trees here. So that is Control and tilde gives you that view, and tilde on its own gives you the line. Okay, so we're going to leave deployment right there. We will talk about some more of these buttons up here when we get into the fight itself. Thanks for listening.